So when it comes to the political left, they always claim themselves to be the more inclusive side of the party. They claim to be people who are more diverse, people who are inclusive, people who try to bring others together. But honestly, whenever it comes to their actions are not their words, because even though that they do claim that they like to bring people together and that they want to stop the divide between others, when it comes to their actions a lot of the times is that that's what they tend to do. They tend to divide people. And this policy right here was reported by 7 News that Jacinta Allen has backed a 2-tier hospital policy that fast-tracks Indigenous patients ahead of other sick Victorians, which basically what it is doing is that if you are someone who is not an Indigenous Australian, and if you don't know what an Indigenous Australian is, that is the people who were here before the British colonizers came over and took over Australia, right? Basically conquered the whole entire land of Australia. The Indigenous people were the ones that were here, okay? And even though we should acknowledge that they were here first, I think that giving them special treatment, especially when it comes to certain things, like patients in the hospital, so if you have been sitting there for an hour and you are deathly sick, right? And you need to see a doctor as soon as possible. Someone who is Indigenous, who walks in after you, will get put as a priority over you, even if they've just gone ahead and stubbed their toe. So they are not putting in priority of when it comes to sickness level, which is how the hospital system is and how it should remain, but instead they are putting a priority on race, which is dividing people. It is exactly what you say you work against. And you know what's even more funny is that the Premier, Jacinta Allen, decided to come out and speak about this. And what was her words on it?
Let's stop this politics of division.
Let's stop this politics of division. That is right. The Premier, the person who is directly trying to back a policy that will fast track people because of their race over other people who are not that ethnicity, not that race, is saying to stop politics of division. How fucking ironic is that? And I will see a lot of people, they will come out and they will say, oh, but Donnie, all these people, all the Indigenous people, they had so many bad things happen to them over time. And they did, okay? They did. They had their land taken from them. There was the stolen generation as well. But if you keep dwelling over the past and you try to put policies in that put these people who probably most likely weren't even alive during the stolen generation, which happened between 1910 and 1970. So everyone who was born after the 1970s didn't experience this stolen generation. They didn't experience this. And we can acknowledge that that happening was bad. We can. But if you're now trying to amend what happened by putting in policies that blatantly put these people over others, you're not going to give them reparations. All you're doing is that you're going to cause more people to put hate towards them, to put hate towards you, and cause more division. And this isn't the only thing that has come out over the last few days of where the left people in Australia, leftist politicians have come out and said things that divide the country more than actually unites it, is where a Greens politician, and if you don't know what the Greens is here in Australia, is that is basically the far left political party where they all are all about inclusion and helping the environment. But goddamn, do they end up doing the opposite, where this Afghanistan-born woman, that's right, this politician who is in the Greens was born in Afghanistan, didn't move to Australia till she was in her 30s, making racist remarks.
You know, you would have thought that they would perhaps understand the meaning of burning down the house, given that many of you white people in here claim English as your first language. For heaven's sake, this is a metaphor. It did not take 2 seconds for Labour and coalition senators and MPs to start a pile-on Senator Thorne.
She wants to burn down the house. And obviously, she might mean it hypothetically. But we all know that if she was given the chance to go ahead and burn down the political house, she would go ahead and fucking do so. We know it. And you know what? This might be a controversial opinion, but I think that if you are not born inside a country, even if you end up getting the citizenship of that country and denouncing your former citizenship, you should not be able to become a politician. I'm sorry, but unless you were born in a country, or maybe even move to said country within the first 10 years of your life, because if you move to another country in your 30s, there is no way that you have devout loyalty to that country where you want to undyingly serve that country, serve the culture of that country and the people of that country. You are going to still have, even if you say that you denounce your past citizenship, because in Australia, you can't be a politician with dual citizenship. You have to denounce your former citizenship in said country. And honestly, especially when it comes to the Greens, it wouldn't surprise me if they did some wraparounds where some of these people who so-called denounce their citizenships in their former country, just like this woman right here, that it's a whole load of fucking BS. Because they are clearly having agendas that serve their country. I mean, she was standing in the political house holding up a sign of when it says Gaza is starving, words won't feed them, sanction Israel. Australia has sent $130 million in humanitarian assistance since October 7th. Australia has done so much to a country that we shouldn't. To a country that we should not be involved in the first place. Australia should not be involved in that war. Should never have been involved in that war in any way possible. Especially when the homeless crisis in Australia is as bad as it is. The unemployment crisis is as bad as it is. And the housing crisis in Australia is so fucking terrible. Our economy is a piece of shit. And you are wanting to focus on international issues. We should be focusing on the issues that are here in Australia. And then you're going ahead and making racist remarks towards people inside the house. Why the fuck are you an Australian politician? You obviously don't have Australia in your forefront of your mind. And when it comes to people who were not born here in Australia, there is this influencer who is an immigrant in Australia. When you're an immigrant into a country, you should be respectful to that country, especially if you have come from a terrible country. You have moved to said country, become a citizen or become at least a permanent resident of that country, and you are on a visa. Why the fuck should you be talking shit about said country?
Protect Australian culture, right? You know, the proud culture of having no teeth, yelling unintelligible phrases, screaming profanity at strangers, getting plastered on a Saturday arvo, and smashing a meat pie in the servo car park. Real Australia first behaviour, mate. Yeah, nah, you're doing great. Single-handedly preserving the national identity.
This girl was not born in Australia, but yet she's talking shit about this country, talking bad about how Australia has no culture. And I fucking hate when people say stuff like this, okay? They say it a lot about America, and they say a bit about Australia, especially a lot of immigrants that come to this country, okay? I'm a family of immigrants. I was born here, okay? But some of my grandparents weren't born here. But those grandparents appreciate this country more than the country that they fucking came from. And the culture that has here in Australia, you might be asking, what culture does Australia have? Mateship, modesty, informality. Whenever you hear Aussies talk, we never talk that much of when it comes to formality. Outdoor lifestyle. Now, me, I'm not much of an outdoorsy person, but whenever it comes to a lot of public holidays in Australia, a lot of people go fucking camping like hours away. Sporting nation, Australia, when it comes to our sports, we are devout of when it comes to our sports. We are such a small country in population, but every single time the Olympics are on, we do extremely well for a country compared to the size of, say, America. When you look at the percentage of how well we do, of the amount of medals that we get compared to our population, we do extremely well. We have our own version of football here. We still have our own soccer league that is relatively big. We host one of the F1 Grand Prix. We have rugby here in Australia as well. We're so big on sports that the NFL is planning to do an official game here next year. And then especially when it comes to here in Melbourne, I don't know too much about when it comes to Sydney, Queensland or Perth or even Adelaide, but cafe culture here in Melbourne, cafe culture is massive, okay? When it comes to people's coffees, it's fucking huge. And the last one, and obviously the most obvious one of when it comes to this, is Aussie slang. Aussie slang is built into people's brains. The fact that we use cunt as a compliment towards people, that's fucking culture within itself. And if you're saying that it's not, well, you're just being a dumb fuck. And all these people They claim to be these leftists people. They claim to be people who are trying to bring others together, who are trying to unite people that are diverse of when it comes to the way that they speak. But they're not. They're inherently fucking racist. They are. And you know what's funny about these three people? Is that they're fucking Karens. They're Karens. They're Karens. Alright? There's two types of people that cause all the issues in the world. Incels and Karens. And when it comes to these three situations, all of them have been caused by Karens. And this is one of the reasons why myself, I used to be someone who was very much of a leftist mindset years ago. Someone who would definitely identify of when it comes to the political left. But now, fuck no. Would I consider myself someone who was on the right? Probably not. Because I definitely carry some leftist values still. But I am not someone who would identify with these leftist values that overarchingly cover the political left in the year of 2025. Especially when they claim to unite people, but all they do is divide. So what do you think about all these three situations? I would definitely like to hear about your opinions down below. That is going to be it from me. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Peace out.